Carrie watched as her best friend lay bleeding to death on the living room floor. She stared fixedly as a hooded man came out of the shadows. "You have to die, Julie. It's the only way." The man twirled a bloody knife in his hands. "No, please!" Julie choked out a sob. Her yellow hair was a mess and it was damp with sweat. She raised a hand to her neck and tried to stop the wound from bleeding. Using her free hand, Julie tried to crawl away from the hooded man. When the man started to approach her best friend, Carrie did nothing. Julie's green eyes looked up at her desperately. "Help!" "Sleep tight, Julie." The man raised the knife and stabbed the poor girl one last time. As the light dimmed from her best friend's eyes, Carrie smiled at Julie's limp body. "Cut! Perfect!" Director Nolan Roberts clapped proudly. "Now, everyone, take 5. Julie opened her eyes and laughed. "Good morning, sunshine." Carrie grinned from behind one of the cameras. She tucked a lock of brown hair behind her ear and finally bent down to help Julie up. "Nice job, Julie." Jack removed his hooded costume and ruffled his short dark curls. His gray eyes crinkled as he gave Julie a high five. There was a smack as the sticky red corn syrup on Julie's hand transferred to Jack's. "I'm so glad we decided to use this for the fake blood instead of ketchup." Jack grinned and licked the corn syrup on his hand. "Ugh, let's head outside." Julie wrinkled her nose. Carrie gave her a towel and led the way to the wide front yard. She and 3 other classmates were filming their group project with the help of Jack's brother, world-famous director Nolan Roberts. Nolan had chosen an abandoned classical Victorian mansion as the set for the movie. It was going to be called 5 Nights of Terror. The story revolved around a girl, Julie, whose nightmares come to life after she moves into the mansion. One such nightmare was of a hooded murderer who was deliriously in love with her. The murderer comes to life and spends the rest of the movie tormenting Julie. He believes that in order for Julie to be with him, she has to sleep eternally. In other words, Julie needed to die. For a second, Carrie thought of starring in the movie herself. The lights, the cameras, the action, the screams, the murders, the blood. It was only the start of filming and things were already exciting, but Carrie knew Julie wanted the opportunity more than she did. Carrie watched Julie climb on the edge of the lawn's marble fountain. It was one of Carrie's rules to never compete with her best friend for anything important, so Carrie had opted to volunteer as the cameraman instead. "Want one?" Julie shook a carton of Marlboros. A cigarette was already dangling from her mouth. "No, pass." "I can't believe how you do it. I mean, this is my dream and all, starring in an actual film. But you guys are crazy for sacrificing our last spring break for this." Julie heavily exhaled a puff of smoke and gesticulated wildly as Carrie stood in front of her. Julie was referring to the Grayson Manor, the gloomiest and most sinister-looking house on Praire Avenue in Washington. Praire Avenue consisted of a long stretch of old and abandoned Victorian mansions, some dating back over a century. Nolan had insisted they film here, despite the fact that Washington was miles away from their school in Florida. "If I'm helping my brother graduate, then I might as well do it right," he had said. Since the only time Carrie and her classmates could fly across the country was on spring break, they had packed their bags 2 days ago and rented Grayson Manor for 2 weeks.